She knocked on the wrong hotel door at 3 a.m. What this millionaire did will haunt you forever. The moon hung low, slicing through the thick silence of the deserted hotel corridor. It was 3 a.m., and the air was heavy with an unseen dread. Somewhere in this lavish palace of excess, a millionaire was about to face a night that would unravel everything he held dear. And she was about to knock on the wrong door. Clad in a thin, faded robe, her heart raced as she approached the door. The plush carpet whispered beneath her bare feet, a stark contrast to the tension sparking in her chest. She wasn't just another guest, she was drawn by the dark allure that surrounded this place. Rumors of secrets and fatal encounters drifted through the walls like a haunting melody. She could feel it in the air, the truth, hidden beneath the surface, begging to be uncovered. As her knuckles brushed the cool wood, she thought she heard whispers, like shadows dancing in the corners of her mind. Was it just the wind? No, it couldn't be. The corridor seemed alive, thrumming with anticipation. A sudden silence hovered between breaths, making the hairs on her arms stand on end. She knocked once, hard, the sound echoed, shattering the stillness. On the other side, something stirred. A shifting shadow, the rustle of expensive fabric. He was there, the enigmatic millionaire, the kind whose eyes hid 1,000 dark stories. The door creaked open as if beckoning her in, but she felt it, that prickling sensation of danger. It was a choice she hadn't fully considered. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With a deep breath, she stepped through the threshold and into a world soaked in wealth and secrets. The room was dimly lit, shadows clung to the corners like the secrets begging to be released. The man stood there, a phantasm of confidence tinged with something darker, a predator disguised as a gentleman. As their eyes locked, a chill raced through her. What did he see in her? Then he smiled, a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Something in that moment shifted. It felt like the ground beneath her was crumbling, leaving only questions behind. Would she walk away unscathed, or would she become a part of the mystery lingering in this hotel? And then the lights flickered, the door slammed shut behind her. What had she walked into? What had she unleashed? The air thickened, suffocating her with unspoken truths. Her heart thundered in her chest, the weight of that door's closure like a promise forged in shadows. She turned her gaze to him, expecting to see a man eager to welcome her into his gilded life, yet all she found was a flicker of something darker, a tempest veiled by glamour. "You're not supposed to be here," he murmured, his voice smooth and dripping with charm yet laced with an edge that made her shiver. Each word felt like a direct challenge, a dance on the precipice of danger. "What does that mean?" she whispered, her voice barely breaking through the heavy silence. His smile faltered, just for a moment, revealing cracks beneath his polished surface. "This hotel, it's not what it seems. Nothing is as it appears." Intrigued and terrified, she scanned the room. The decor was elegant, rich mahogany, velvet drapes, art lining the walls, but it felt more like a cage than a sanctuary. Her instinct screamed at her to flee, yet something about his magnetism held her captive. What lies behind those eyes? She thought, battling the urge to bolt. But she stayed, caught in the web of secrets, her curiosity pricked. "Why are you here?" he asked, closing the distance between them, that predator-like glint in his gaze. It felt as if he were searching her for answers she wasn't willing to share. I was looking for something," she stuttered, gripping the edges of her robe like it could shield her from his intensity. "Or someone." The statement hung between them, charged, pregnant with implication. Who was she really looking for? Did she even know? Even as she searched for the words, the flickering lights cast ominous shadows that danced on the walls as if alive. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the hallway, a clash with the world outside that sent cold dread slithering down her spine. His eyes darted to the door, a brief look of concern flashing across his face. "Stay quiet," he whispered urgently, the charming facade evaporating to reveal a man who wasn't just wealthy but desperate. "Is someone after you?" She whispered back, every nerve ending alight with anxiety. "Not someone, something." His jaw tightened, the words barely escaping between clenched teeth before she could ask what he meant. The footsteps grew louder, a sinister rhythm matching the frantic beat of her heart. Thuds of uncertainty filled her ears. Was it the same darkness that had drawn her here? Just then, the door rattled violently, and she glanced at him, panic-stricken. He crossed the room to a hidden compartment behind a sleek cabinet. He pulled out something, the glint of metal catching the scant light before sliding it into his pocket, his expression darkening. "What are you doing? What is happening?" The tremor in her voice betrayed her. "Now, you need to listen carefully." But before he could continue, the door burst open with a crash, revealing a silhouette cloaked in shadow, a figure that made her blood run cold. "Where is she?" A low growl reverberated, chilling the room further. Her breath hitched, drowning in the growing horror of the moment. What had she stumbled into? Who were these men? She looked from the millionaire back to the shadowed form at the doorway. The tension threatened to snap like the taut string of a bow. What would happen next? Would she become ensnared in this deadly game, or could she escape before the horrors unfolded? The figure in the doorway loomed, a silhouette dipped in shadows, menacing and powerful. He stepped into the room, his presence absorbing the dim light, transforming it into a heavy gloom. Her heart raced, each beat felt like an echo of impending doom. "Where is she?" His voice was an icy whisper, each word seeping with venom. She felt the tension rise like a thick fog around her. She couldn't take her eyes off him. The faint light revealed a face hardened by malice, etched with years spent in the underbelly of the night. His eyes were predatory, scanning the room like a wolf hunting its prey. "Who are you?" She managed to stammer, a light sheen of fear coating her words. The millionaire beside her shifted, positioning himself defensively. "You're in the wrong place, Marcus," he said, his tone suddenly losing its charm, now barbed with urgency. "You need to leave." "Leave?" Marcus laughed, a harsh sound that grated on her ears. "You think I'm here for a friendly chat? I know you have her." The accusation hung thick between them. "Who is her?" she whispered, her throat constricting. The mounting dread coiled tightly in her chest, an unwelcome companion to her growing panic. "Let's just say she's got something I want. And I don't play nicely when I'm denied." She caught the look exchanged between them, a silent understanding laced with fear. It sent chills racing down her spine. What had she walked into? What did Marcus want from her? "Get away from her," the millionaire said, stepping forward, a protective barrier inked in defiance. "You don't know what you're dealing with." The atmosphere crackled. A standoff brewed, an electric pulse of danger that made her skin prickle with apprehension. She needed to make sense of this whirlwind. Her mind raced. If she was in danger, could she trust the man beside her? "You think you can keep her from me?" Marcus taunted, tilting his head like a predator toying with its catch. "You'll wish you hadn't crossed me, Christopher." Christopher, so that was his name. She tucked it away, gripping tightly onto her fleeting sense of safety. But it was clear now, she was standing between two men wrapped in a web of shadows, each claiming a stake in the darkness intertwining their lives. In a swift motion, Marcus lunged forward, the desperation in his movement a palpable threat. The world slowed as she gasped, the air thickening again, suffocating her senses. Christopher reacted instantly, a flash of metal glinting as he pulled the weapon from his pocket, steady in his grip, a promise of protection or destruction. "Back away!" he commanded, voice slicing through the tension like a knife. Marcus hesitated, his eyes narrowing with dark amusement. "You think you can scare me?" He stepped closer, fearless, emboldened by whatever secrets lived in his shadows. The standoff spiraled, like a tightly coiled spring ready to snap. She didn't know if she would scream or run. Every instinct told her to flee, yet here she was, rooted in place, a pawn in a game far larger than she ever imagined. "What do you want?" she shouted suddenly, surprising herself. "What is this about?" Both men turned their eyes to her, astonished by her audacity. For a heartbeat, the silence felt heavy enough to shatter. "I want answers," Marcus said, his voice low and dangerous. "You're more lost than you realize," Christopher replied, taut with tension. "And you're in way over your head." Night thickened around them, the weight of secrets, deception, and violence tangling together like a fine web. As Marcus took another step closer, her heart raced. She braced herself, torn between choosing sides, then, without warning, the lights flickered. For a brief second, darkness swallowed the room. She could hardly breathe as blackness surged around her, swallowing any hope, any sense of safety. What now? What waited in the inevitable blackness? A single thought pierced through: would she survive the night, or would the shadows claim her forever? The darkness felt alive, pulsating with tension. An oppressive silence hung heavily, wrapping around them like a shroud. She strained her ears, trying to catch any sound above the frantic beating of her heart. Footsteps echoed softly, then faded into nothingness. "Stay close to me," Christopher murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, yet firm. She felt the heat radiating from him, his presence an anchor in the storm of uncertainty. But Marcus's laughter erupted from the shadows, breaking through her fleeting sense of safety. "Oh, the brave knight wants to protect the damsel in distress?" How quaint his voice danced in the darkness, mocking. Her skin prickled, each word felt like a blade slicing through her composure. She could sense Christopher's resolve, but a thread of doubt coiled tight in her gut. Did Christopher truly have the power to protect her, or was he just another piece in Marcus's twisted game? Before she could dwell on those thoughts, the light surged back to life. A harsh bulb flickered, illuminating an unsettling tableau. Marcus stood too close for comfort, his eyes glinting with malevolent delight. One corner of his mouth turned up in a smile that chilled her to the bone. Christopher positioned himself between her and Marcus, his weapon still trained on him. "You need to back off, Marcus," he warned, his voice steady, but she could hear the underlying tension. "This can end without bloodshed." "She's the key, you fool," Marcus hissed. "You think a gun can hold me at bay? I've survived far worse." Her mind raced. Key? What key? Was she supposed to unlock something dangerous? The air thickened with impending violence as her thoughts spiraled out of control. "Stop!" she shouted, her fear morphing into defiance. "What are you talking about? What do you want from me?" For a moment, both men stared at her, confusion flickering across their faces. This was her chance. "If I'm the key, then how do I unlock whatever you're after?" The question hung in the air, ripe with tension. Marcus's gaze sharpened. "Someone is desperate to find you. And I'm just the right man to cut through the lies and secrets." "Desperate?" Christopher echoed, his grip tightening on the weapon. "Who the hell is after her?" The question hung heavy as the stakes climbed higher. A sickening sensation clawed at her stomach. What had she stumbled into? The wall seemed to close in, and she fought the urge to press her back against the cool surface. "You're both talking in riddles. I don't have time for games." "Games?" Marcus scoffed. "This is anything but a game. What if I told you that your life isn't what you think it is? That your identity is built upon a foundation of deception?" His words crashed over her like a wave, knocking her further into a state of confusion. She felt the ground shift beneath her. What truth was he playing at? "No." Christopher's voice drew her attention. "Don't listen to him. It's a trap." Before she could plead with him to explain, Marcus lunged again, swift and relentless. Christopher fired, the deafening crack of the shot slicing through the tension like a bolt of lightning. She screamed, not knowing who was in line for the next blow, but the bullet tore into the wall next to Marcus, sending plaster flying. The room filled with the acrid scent of gunfire, her heart pounding deafeningly in her ears. The precarious balance tipped further into chaos. "Get down!" Christopher shouted, moving to shield her, but Marcus was already fading into the darkness, his laughter echoing ominously. "It's not over, Christopher," he called back. "This is just the beginning." Her pulse raced along with the clashing adrenaline. As the realization of what just happened began to sink in, dread pooled in her stomach. What had she gotten herself into? And worse, would she be able to escape its clutches before it consumed her entirely? Outside, distant sirens wailed, growing louder, bringing the chaos of the city rushing back, but inside, darkness loomed, and the shadows seemed to breathe, beckoning her into their depths. They would have to act fast. Time was slipping through her fingers like sand. What was waiting beyond the threshold of their confrontations, and whom or what might emerge next? Adrenaline surged through her veins as she pressed herself against the wall, fingers trembling at her sides. Christopher stood beside her, eyes darting to where Marcus had vanished into the dark. The laughter still echoed like a taunt, and she felt as if she were teetering on a knife's edge, heart thrumming wildly in her chest. "Is he gone?" she whispered, barely able to form the words. Her throat felt tight, and she caught a glimpse of Christopher's face, a mask of focus and fear. "He won't be gone for long," he replied, urgency in his tone. "We need to get out of here." But where could they run? The walls felt like they were closing in, and the searing panic threw her thoughts into chaos. This was not just a moment of danger, it was a plunge into an unknown darkness that felt disturbingly personal. What did he mean? She asked, looking up at Christopher, desperately searching his eyes for answers. "What did he mean about me being the key?" "I don't know," he said sharply, glancing around the room. "But it can't be good. We have to move." The distant wail of the sirens got closer, but they had to find a way out. He grabbed her hand, his grip firm, as they slipped through the door into the corridor. The harsh lighting compared to the previous darkness made her squint, but panic propelled her forward. They stepped into the hallway, edged with peeling wallpaper and flickering lights. A faint echo of footsteps rang out ahead, and she pulled Christopher back. "Wait. Someone's coming." He pressed a finger to his lips, and they crouched low, peering around the corner. A figure moved under the flickering lights, one of the hotel staff, a man in a stained white shirt, shuffling toward them. His face looked drawn, eyes glazed over. "Let him pass," Christopher whispered, keeping her grounded. But the moment felt fragile, as if everything could unravel at any second. The man stopped, tilting his head as if sensing something. Her breath caught, heart thumping louder than the sirens, as he squinted into the shadows where they hid. Without warning, his gaze flicked away, and he continued on his way, oblivious. Once he rounded the corner, Christopher jerked her back into motion. They rushed down the corridor, but every footstep felt like a countdown. She couldn't shake the anxiety clawing at her throat. What could Marcus want? She blurted, her voice a whisper tinged with disbelief. "Power," Christopher muttered, dragging her along. "Chaos follows him like a shadow. If he's after you, it means you hold something he wishes to possess." "But I don't know anything," she protested, panic rising again, almost spilling over. "I'm just me." Christopher stopped abruptly, turning to face her. "You need to trust that you're more than you think. Marcus wants to control something. If you're his key, it might not just be about you. It could involve something much bigger." The implications of his words settled heavily between them. She felt like a pawn caught in a game far greater than her own understanding. The door to the stairwell loomed ahead, light spilling out from below, a promise of escape. "Let us go," Christopher urged, urgency spiking in his voice as he pushed the door open. The sound of the sirens grew louder outside, mirroring the storm brewing in her heart. She stepped into the stairwell, the metallic smell of old building mingling with fear. As they descended, the echo of their footsteps melded with the cacophony of sirens and muffled chaos echoing even down here. Suddenly, the lights flickered out, plunging them into darkness again. "Stay close." Christopher's voice cut through the shadows, but she felt the walls press against her as her heart raced. In the frantic search for a way out, a flicker of doubt seeped in. Could they actually escape? Would Marcus pursue them down these dark corners, revealing whatever truths had been hidden until now? Then, just as quickly, The lights flickered back, and she spotted something at the foot of the stairwell, a shape moving, creeping up the stairs, distorted in the shadows. "I see you," a guttural voice rasped. "And I know where to find you." Her breath hitched in her throat. Who was this, another player in this deadly game? The urgency swelled, tearing through her as they turned to dart back up, fear anchoring them. What awaited them in the deeper shadows? What secrets lay just out of reach? And, most importantly, could they uncover the truth before it was too late? The moment they turned to flee, she felt a jolt of fear settle in her stomach. Instinct screamed at her to run, but the darkness felt alive, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. Christopher's grip tightened around her wrist as they retreated up the stairs, their footsteps echoing like quiet thunder against the cold concrete. "Where do we go?" she panted, glancing over her shoulder. The air felt thick and charged, as if it were about to crack open and reveal something monstrous lurking just beyond their reach. "We need to get to the roof," he said, urgency shredding his calm facade. "It's the only way to get out without being caught." More sirens rang out in the distance, a chorus to their desperate flight. With every step, the laughter still echoed in her mind, a dark reminder of the twisted game Marcus was playing. What sort of power could be so alluring that it drove a man to madness? They reached the landing and Christopher hurried through another door, leading them into a narrow passageway that felt even longer than before. The lights flickered dramatically above them as they darted through, shadows stretching and folding like sinister hands reaching for them. A door at the end seemed to whisper of hope. They reached it, but as Christopher yanked it open, it led to a small, empty room. Despair loomed over her. "This isn't the roof." "Shut the door," he hissed, slamming it shut just as a noise echoed from the corridor behind them, a low, guttural growl that made her heart race anew. "I don't think we're alone," she whispered, panic threatening to drown her. Christopher's face paled. "We'll have to hide." He scanned the room, spotting a closet in the corner, its door slightly ajar. "Quick! In here!" He pulled her, urgency swelling in his voice. They crouched inside, the stifling darkness closing in around them. She could barely breathe, heart hammering so loud she was sure Christopher could hear it too. A soft thud followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed through the room. "Where did they go?" A familiar voice called out, "Marcus. I can smell your fear. It's intoxicating." Tension coiled tight in her chest. She wanted to scream, but the terror of being discovered kept the sound trapped inside. The closet door trembled slightly as she held her breath, contemplating the futility of their current position. The footsteps stopped, a heartbeat of silence crashing against her eardrums. "You think you can hide?" Marcus mocked, his voice looming over them like a predator circling its prey. "You are the key and I will find you." A loud bang against the door sent shockwaves through her. "Forget your hiding place," he bellowed. "You can't outrun destiny." Christopher's grip tightened around her, and she felt his body shift beside her, calculating their next move. She barely dared to look at him, fear pulling the corners of her mind into despair. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the room in a harsh glare. Marcus would see the door, they needed to act fast. On the count of 3, Christopher whispered fiercely. 1, 2, a loud crash echoed outside, the door splintering under the force. "Go!" he shouted, bolting from the closet. She followed, adrenaline coursing through her as they raced toward the window, desperate for escape, but was it freedom they sought or merely a prolonging of the inevitable? As they flung the window open, a glimpse of night sky offered a fleeting sense of relief. The ground seemed far below, but anything was better than being trapped. "Jump!" Christopher urged, his voice a lifeline, but something held her back, an uneasiness curling in her gut. What if before she could finish her thought, footsteps thundered closer, cutting off her hesitation? "Marcus is coming!" Without a second thought, she leapt into the unknown, clutching at the edge of the window as they tumbled out into the darkness. What awaited them down below? Would they find salvation or face Marcus's wrath? And how much more truth would they uncover before the night was through? The cold air hit her like a slap as she fell, gravity pulling her down into a void of uncertainty. For a split second, time paused, the world seemed to hold its breath along with her. Then, as if reality snapped back with a vengeance, she landed hard on a pile of garbage, the stench of rot filling her lungs. She gasped, pain shooting through her body like electric shocks. "Get up! Hurry!" Christopher's voice cut through the fog of her shock. She scrambled to her feet, glancing around for any signs of Marcus. The alleyway was dark, littered with shadows that seemed to warp and twist. Her heart raced, echoing the urgency of Christopher's words. What had they just escaped? The sirens wailed nearby, a sinister reminder of the chaos they had been thrust into. They were out in the open now, yet she felt no safer. Which way? She panted, scanning the area, her instinct screaming to get as far away as possible. Over there. Christopher gestured toward a cracked door slightly ajar at the edge of the alley. With little time to think, they bolted toward it, adrenaline fueling every step. Inside, the smell of mildew hit her like a brick wall. The dim light barely illuminated the space, a forgotten haven, it seemed. Trimmed furniture stood haphazardly, as if left mid-conversation. Her eyes darted, trying to assess their surroundings. "We need to lock this door." Christopher hurried to shove the door shut. The rusty handle creaked ominously as he slammed it closed, locking it with a shaky hand. "This will have to do, but would it?" Before she could voice her concerns, a loud crash reverberated through the door. "I can hear you." Marcus's voice, cold and taunting, drenched in malice, sent chills crawling across her skin. "You think you can hide? I love a good chase." The sheer madness in his tone threw her into a frenzy. "What does he want?" She whispered, her breath catching in her throat. "Power. Control." "Us," Christopher said, his voice tight with fear. "He believes we hold the key to something dark." "What does that even mean?" She pressed, urgency heightening as the force against the door grew stronger. "Marcus thinks he can harness what we know, what we've seen." His chest heaved as if the weight of their predicament pressed down on him. "We need to find a way out now." His words, frantic yet convincing, pushed her into motion. She began to search the dimly lit room, throwing objects aside, looking for anything that could be used as a weapon or a means of escape. They needed a plan, and fast. "Here!" she shouted, holding up a broken broomstick. "Maybe we can break a window or defend ourselves if he gets in." "Good thinking," he replied, his eyes wide with determination. The door trembled again, Marcus's laughter echoing through the frame. "To think, you once believed you could escape me. I'm coming for you." Another crash and the door trembled violently as he slammed against it. The sound resonated through the room, ripping through her frail attempt at courage. "Find something to barricade this door," she urged, her voice rising in panic. Christopher flung a coffee table against the door with a guttural growl of effort, their only lifeline depending on keeping Marcus at bay. Sweat dripped down her forehead, fear rolling through her like a freight train. They turned toward each other, breaths mingling with the tension in the air. "What now?" she breathed. Before Christopher could respond, the room fell silent. Not a sound, not even their haggard breaths. They exchanged wide eyes, confusion replaced by raw dread. Then came a sharp crack, like the snap of a twig in the woods, accompanied by a subtle shaking from the walls. And through that silence, a realization loomed. This wasn't just a game for Marcus. He had something planned, something far worse than either of them could foresee. A shadow flickered across the wall, and then, the unthinkable happened. The lights flickered above as Marcus's silhouette materialized in the doorway. "Did you really think you could escape me?" Her heart sank, realization crashing down on her. There was nowhere left to run. What had they walked into? What fresh horror awaited them? As dread settled heavy in her stomach, she understood they were just beginning to uncover the dark web Marcus had spun around them. But one thought echoed through her mind louder than all the others: what if this was merely the start of their nightmare? The low hum of the flickering lights felt like an omen, pushing the air thick with dread. Marcus stepped into the room, his presence casting a chilling shadow that swallowed any remnants of sanity. His eyes, wild and gleaming with a frenzied light, locked onto hers. "Didn't I tell you I love a game?" His voice dripped with a mix of arrogance and psychosis. "You both have something I want, and I won't stop until I have it. Ready to play?" Christopher moved protectively in front of her, panic radiating from him. "Stay back!" he shouted, brandishing the broomstick in a desperate attempt to assert some form of control. "Oh, don't be silly," Marcus chuckled, but the sound wasn't even close to humorous. "You think that stick will save you?" The cowardice in her chest began to melt into a quiet rage. "What do you want from us?" His lips curled into a cruel smile. "I already told you. Our little secrets, they're worth more than all the normalcy you cling to." He paced the room, as if the walls themselves were barriers to his desires. "You don't know what lies ahead. But trust me, your lives are about to get a whole lot more interesting." An unease settled in her gut as the realization hit. Marcus wasn't just after physical control, he was after something deeper. The truth of what they had witnessed, the sinister undercurrents they had unknowingly become entangled in. The walls around them seemed to pulse, compressing her chest with each breath. Desperation broke through her fear, and she blurted, "You think we're scared? We won't tell you anything." "Ah, but it's not just about scaring you. It's about unearthing the hidden parts of you. Who you really are when the masks come off." He stepped closer, and the laughter bubbling in his throat turned manic. "I'll make you face your deepest fears, stripping away every illusion. And when you're heartbroken and hollow, I'll squeeze you for every last drop of what you know." That moment felt electric. Her heart pounded like a war drum, pulling her thoughts from despair into sheer determination. "You can't control us." "Can't I?" Before she could even react, Marcus lunged toward Christopher, slamming him across the chest. The broomstick flew from his hands, hitting the ground with a dull thud. "No!" she screamed. The fight-or-flight impulse kicked in hard. She rushed to Christopher's side, her heart racing. "Run!" he bellowed, trying to shove her toward the back of the room, but Marcus was quick, sidestepping, a twisted grin stretched across his face. "Too late for that, beautiful," he sneered. With fear wrapping around her throat, she quickly evaluated their options. The window. It was just behind a piece of broken furniture. If they could reach it, they might have a chance to escape. "Christopher, the window!" she yelled, rallying him. But Marcus moved in a blur, cutting off the path, a coiled predator enjoying the hunt. He raised his hands, snapping his fingers. "Let us have some fun." With a wave of his hand, the lights flickered violently before plunging the room into an oppressive darkness. Her heart raced faster than the panic flooding her mind, every instinct screaming at her to find safety. "Stay close," she whispered fiercely. Silence enveloped them, a haunting void that nearly drowned out their panicked breaths. They needed a plan, and they had to act quickly. Then, a soft whisper grazed her ear like icy fingers. "Trust your instincts." Where had it come from? A trick of her mind or something Marcus had conjured? Before she could respond, a crashing sound echoed across the room, followed by another sickening thud. The door shuddered on its hinges, rattling against the weight of relentless pressure. "Time's up," Marcus crooned, his voice almost singing through the murk. They glanced at each other, a silent understanding flickering between them. This was about more than survival, this was a battle for their very souls. What dark secrets lingered in the shadows of their pasts, waiting to be unearthed? The door splintered, and right then, the world changed. It wasn't just a fight for their lives anymore, it was a fight against their own fears. What awaited them on the other side? And would they ever be the same again? The darkness thickened, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. She instinctively reached for Christopher's hand, their fingers interlocking in a moment of shared fear, each heartbeat a reminder of the chaos looming over their heads. "Can we make it to the window?" he whispered, his voice barely rising above the oppressive silence. "I think so," she replied, the raw tremor in her own words betraying her bravado. But we have to move now. He's unstable. Another crash echoed from the door, splintering wood spraying like shrapnel. Her heart raced as the sound pierced through the darkness, accompanied by Marcus's malevolent laughter. Peter Pan and Wendy. Get ready for the real game. The faint glimmer of his insanity seeped through the shadows, taunting them. Christopher shifted, desperation flashing in his eyes. Follow my lead, he urged, inhaling deeply as he prepared for their first move. They were cornered, but not without options. There was no time to dwell on the odds. They had to take the risk. Squeezing her hand tightly, they crept toward the edge of the room, the broken items crunching beneath their feet like brittle bones. They had to be silent. Any sound might alert Marcus to their intentions. The glint of the window shimmered through the darkness just ahead, a beacon of hope in their merciless situation. With every agonizing step, she felt the weight of doubt clawing at the back of her mind. Would they truly escape? Or was Marcus only playing with them, teasing them with false hope? Suddenly, the madness came alive again. A brilliant flash of light illuminated the room, casting twisted shadows against the walls. There he stood, Marcus, grinning like a madman. You really thought you could sneak away? I know all your moves, darling. Christopher instinctively pushed her back, shielding her from the explosion of manic energy that erupted from Marcus's outstretched hands. A burst of intense air rippled past them, sending papers and dust swirling like a mini tornado. We're not just hiding, we're fighting. He spat, determination igniting. The adrenaline coursed through her veins, bolstering her resolve. She could feel it, an overwhelming urge to stand tall against the man who thrived on chaos. Let us go, she shouted, darting towards the fleeting window. Marcus lunged forward, eyes ablaze with a sinister thrill. You think you can escape what I've set in motion? The game has just begun. With frantic urgency, they dove towards the window, the sound of Marcus's footsteps pounding behind them. Suddenly, a beam of light pierced through the gathering shadows, illuminating the way almost like a spotlight guiding them home. As she reached the edge, she hesitated, fear clawing at her throat. Now! Christopher yelled, his voice echoing in her ears as he grasped her waist, pushing her through the frame. They burst into the outside world, the cold night air biting against their skin. The ground was uneven beneath them, but the urgency of survival propelled them forward. She looked back, only to catch a glimpse of Marcus's wild grin, filling her with icy dread. Then, a guttural roar erupted from inside, as though something far deeper and more primal had been unleashed. You can't run from the truth, he bellowed, each word an echo of their fear. Fueled by instinct, they sprinted down an alley, her breath quickening as the distant sounds of the city flooded back into her senses. Heavy footsteps followed close behind, pounding that heartbeat of terror. Where do we go? She gasped, glancing around for a sanctuary, a safe space amid the chaos. There's an underground cafe a few blocks down, Christopher called, his determination surging even as the shadows began to stretch and claw around them. We can hide. But could they truly hide from the monster that had awakened? The question loomed heavy in the night air, tangling with the edginess of their flight. With every step, the weight of their hidden fears pressed against them. What waits in the darkness when the light flickers out? Would Marcus ever let them go, or would he ensnare them deeper into his twisted game? As they rounded the corner, the cafe's glowing sign illuminated the darkness, but uncertainties hung like thick clouds above them. Was it truly a refuge or merely the next level of their nightmare? They burst through the door of the underground cafe, gasping for breath. The clattering of cups and soft murmurs of conversation barely registered as fear surged between them. The dim lighting felt like a fog of safety, but it was just an illusion. She glanced behind them, half expecting Marcus to emerge like a shadow from the darkness. Sit, Christopher urged, dragging her to a secluded corner. We need to blend in until we figure things out. She nodded, heart hammering, still haunted by Marcus's manic laugh echoing in her mind. The cafe hummed with life, people absorbed in their little worlds, while they were entangled in chaos, hiding behind empty mugs and half-eaten pastries. What's next? She breathed, gripping the edge of the table. He's going to come for us, Christopher. I know, he replied, brow furrowed. But first, we need to understand what he wants. What does he mean by being the key? His eyes darkened, both fear and determination etched across his features. Think back anything you encountered before tonight that felt out of place, unusual. Her mind spun, racing through memories, fragmented images flickering behind her eyes. An old diary at a thrift store, some words that didn't make sense, a key, perhaps? There was this journal. It hinted at something deeper, something mysterious. Christopher leaned forward. Do you still have it? No. I left it back in my room at the hotel. He cursed under his breath. If it holds the secret Marcus wants, we have to get it back. It's probably the only thing keeping us from becoming his prisoners. But how? Panic flooded her voice. Going back to that hotel feels like a death wish. Maybe not. We can sneak around. He won't find us if we move smartly. The thought of walking back into that lion's den set her heart racing. But they had no choice. The urgency clawed at her. Okay. We'll do it. But we have to be quick. Just as they began to form their plan, a chilling breeze swept through the cafe. The exit door swung open with an ominous creak. Her pulse quickened again, the noise turning instinctively in her mind. Stay low. Christopher hissed, pulling her deeper into their corner. Through the dim light, she could see a silhouette stride through the entrance. It wasn't Marcus but another tall figure. Her heart dropped as she recognized him instantly. It was one of Marcus's henchmen, the one who had been lurking in the hotel corridors. They went this way. He shouted with an ominous glee, scanning the room for any sign of them. Out the back. Christopher grabbed her hand, pulling her toward an exit obscurely tucked behind a shelf of pastries. They squeezed through, slipping into an alley that felt suffocatingly tight. Keep moving. Christopher urged, chest rising sharply with each hurried breath. We need to find a distraction. She gasped, casting one last glance behind. A loud crash erupted inside the cafe moments later, a table toppling over, someone shrieking. It was the diversion they needed. Now's our chance. They sprinted through the alley, heartbeat syncing with the frantic rhythm of footsteps echoing behind them. The air felt heavy with impending doom as they neared the street that led back to the hotel. No more second-guessing. Whatever secrets lay buried there, they were about to unearth them. As they rounded the corner, she caught a glimpse of the hotel's entrance gleaming under the night sky. The agony of returning throbbed in her mind, but the question of what lay ahead pulled them in. We take the stairs. Christopher ordered, urging her toward the doorway. No elevator, it'll be too slow. They raced up the steps, two at a time, until finally reaching the hallway where everything had sparked off into chaos. Her heart trembled with each step as they approached the room she had left behind. A low energy hummed, making the hairs on her arms stand on end, and she cautiously turned the doorknob. It's unlocked, she whispered, pushing the door open slowly. The room lay dark, still, and foreboding. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside, searching for the journal. The night felt like it was holding its breath, every tiny sound stretching into eternity. Where is it? She muttered, scanning the room. It has to be here. Christopher insisted. Just then, with a sudden bolt of horror, she realized the diary sat on the nightstand where she had left it. Could it really contain the key to escaping Marcus's madness? Found it! She cried, grabbing the book. But before she could even take a breath, the door slammed shut behind them, a looming threat. I knew you'd come back, came Marcus's chilling voice, reverberating through the walls as if it were emerging from the shadows. Now, let us see if you're ready to play. Panic surged and then, clarity. They were ready for him. Whatever game Marcus had in mind, they were both determined to fight back. Together? Christopher asked, his fingers brushing against her arm, a promise of solidarity. Together, she affirmed, her spirits buoyed by the connection they shared in that moment. Whatever awaited them, they would confront Marcus not just to escape, but for the truth about themselves. The answers were within reach, and for the first time that night, she felt a spark of hope. There would be no surrender. This time, they would stand and face the darkness head-on. The door creaked open, revealing a figure in shadows driven by madness, but they were ready. The night would bear witness to a reckoning. It was time to transform fear into courage and reclaim their lives from the depths of chaos. This was it. No going back. Together, they stepped into the unknown. You need to subscribe now to never miss the next thrilling chapter. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about what happens next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us make this journey unstoppable.